Ready. Play.
Charge of the point. He comes into the net. It's a really difficult volley. Jack surely wins the point from him.
Wow. What a point. You can see the wind and you can see the adjustments they're making to the wind with their strokes, with the shape they're putting on the ball, or in some cases, like the backhand there pickup from Draper, the lack thereof.
The shape that he put on for that cross court, by the way, was excellent. That because Alcaraz is on the attack, he's coming to the net. Alcaraz probably has an okay-ish volley put away. Wow, serve out wide on that with that wind.
Draper with 2 match points. Okay, John, call this point for us.
I will
for the people.
So goes out wide again on that side, and Alcaraz is going to go long.
Wow.
And Jack Draper is into his first Masters 1000 title or final. Sorry. He will play Holger Rune tomorrow, but possibly even bigger than all of that is the narrative in that Carlos Alcaraz has not been beaten on this court for 3 years until right now. The last person to do it was also a lefty.
Wow.
Rafa Nadal. Well, Jack Draper's not quite Rafa Nadal yet, but that celebration there tells you everything. And wow. Oh, of course. Oh, no. James said he'd win in 3.
Oh, boy. I think it's time to start asking.
In this respect,
not
getting worse.
It's not will Jack Draper win a major? It's will he win double-digit majors? I think that's what the people want to know.
Bit of a weird match, though, right?
Very weird, very strange. You know, of course, big for Draper. Not one that's going to play on ESPN Classic or Tennis Channel Classic, but a big win for Draper nonetheless. I'm so curious, John, who you got tomorrow? What's going to happen?
It's a really difficult one, and yet I keep backing Jack's opponents to beat Jack, from Taylor through Ben and now Carlos, that I have to go against that trend, if you like. Look at who Jack is beating. Look at how Jack is playing, knowing that if as long as he's fine health-wise as well, seeing him come through that 3-setter today, seeing the fact that he's playing the best tennis of his career, you know, from back end of last year until now. Okay, Australia didn't work out great for him. He did fine. I mean, he came through a couple of close matches there and actually wasn't quite physically ready for Australia, but he sort of obviously desperately wanted to play that slam. But yeah, you can tell I've talked myself into a Jack Draper win. Let's have a quick look at the head-to-head. I think they've played once before. Yeah, Jack Draper and Holger. Now, what are you thinking about tomorrow?
Draper straight sets.
Ooh,
confident. I also, I don't want to say that I'm a hater, because I'm not. I just am not sold on Rune or his game. And it's good to see him kind of reaching the level that folks had hoped that he would be able to. I just don't think I don't think he's the guy. And I think that Draper is. I think also, like, you look at Draper, the thing that's held him back early in his career, it hasn't been talent, it hasn't been work ethic, it's been injuries and health, right? And he seems to have finally taken the leap in addressing those issues. And I hope that he continues to stay healthy and to be able to make it through matches. But I like the kid from the UK.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably bigger on Rune by some extent. I think Rune does have the game. I just think there's a lot of other things. Obviously, he's not won a 1,000 title since Paris-Bercy, when probably at that point, almost 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago, we were thinking, here we go, every year, and we're going to be 2 year away from a Grand Slam title for Rune. Well, he's not even come close to winning a Grand Slam yet. But I career-wise, probably I would go more Rune, but tomorrow-wise, I am going Jack. That one match, by the way, I think it was either you or someone in the chat mentioned it. They played in Cincinnati last year. Rune winning that one 4-2. I actually don't remember that specific match, but that was around the same time that Jack Draper would have had that controversial point against Felix Auger-Aliassime. Do you remember that one with the double bounce?
Vaguely, but so correct me wrong. That was a faster surface than they're going to be on tomorrow. Yeah, and a warmer climate. Yeah,
faster. I think significantly faster. Actually, I think slower might suit Rune, although Paris Bercy. Actually changes every year, actually, Paris Bercy. So, because I'm just thinking about the 1,000 title he won. Yeah, so that's funny because there was that, I think it was in Cincinnati. I don't think it was in one of the Canadian tournaments. I'm pretty sure it was Cincinnati where Jack Draper had that double bounce, ball that I think he just said he didn't know. I think he wins the point. Felix is upset. There was no video review back then.
Yep.
And yet today, on that game, I think at 1-1, we think about that 1 point.
At 5-5. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, at 15-15 exactly. That ends up, initially, it was a very weird thing because I haven't seen it again, but basically just for those that are just tuning in or perhaps watching this retrospectively, there was arguably the most important point of the match, 15-15, a supposed potential double bounce that Jack had just reached the ball. Jack was pretty sure that he got the ball and he'd won the point. But we had a video review that showed Jack making the ball, that it hadn't had a double bounce. And yet the umpire initially said, let's replay the point, which was weird because the point played out. Carlos hits the ball back out, basically. This is as the point is happening. I can only guess that maybe there was a call from the umpire. So, of course, we've got our TV volumes down and all the rest of it, and we're focused on what we're doing. But potentially, Liani may have said, oh, double bounce, so point for Alcaraz. And yet, the point is still kind of happening at the same time. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
yeah. Because I saw somebody say about good sportsmanship from Alcaraz. Alcaraz may have played the point in a completely normal way, basically. Think he's not hearing Liani or whatever. He does just basically get his racket on it and ends up going out. And so the point happens in a very normal way, and Alcaraz loses it in that respect. But because the umpire had sort of said something just before Alcaraz put his racket on it, maybe, arguably, it could have been just a replay of the point. And yet it does appear that Alcaraz said, no, whatever played out didn't affect me. I just, I think it was probably an error, actually, in terms of the volley that he put out, because it was a makeable volley, in my opinion, but he put it out. But whatever, probably you have to go back and watch it on TV because I probably clumsily described that point. But
no, I think you got it exactly right, John. And I think it does seem like Alcaraz did the right thing from a sportsmanship perspective, maybe not from a gamesmanship perspective, but I don't think that would have made a difference in the match. Ozan points out that Draper and Rune wear the same, I would say, terrible, boring, uninspired Nike kit and the same backwards hat. So I guess they'll be wearing the same stuff tomorrow. You would just think for a multi-gazillion-dollar company like Nike that it would be somebody somewhere's job to make sure that didn't happen.
Jack wearing a red t-shirt, not the same one I think that the Alcaraz is wearing today, but I have seen him wearing a red Nike t-shirt at the beginning of this tournament.
Yeah.
So I hope, because you do see there's all sorts of variations that they have available to them. And I think some players will often have a sort of a home and away kit. Sometimes they do it in terms of how they think that the kit will look in the day and the night. I know Rafa would often, in the US, depending on whether he's playing day or night, would often have a different shirt on. And I would hope that the powers that be and the players themselves or someone in the marketing just make sure they wear different. It's not because we get it's just easier. And it's also easier for the casual fan in particular.
Yeah.
And it's not that difficult to fix. And tennis being tennis, sometimes it is nuts how they, still, especially like Davis Cup and stuff. I've seen some two nationalities wearing red t-shirts, and I'm thinking, really, here it's very easy to have a home and away kit, or
totally.
There's always two colors in a flag. But so fingers crossed tomorrow. Just give me one more thought for me on tomorrow, because we've seen. I'm just going to go back and have a quick look at Rune's path to the final. Obviously, today it included a straight sets win over Medvedev. He also beat Humbert. That was the one. I don't know if you remember or aware of this match, but he was in big trouble against Humbert. But he comes back from losing the first set to win the second 6-4 and then 7-5. I'm going to share it on the screen right now.
Humbert is a fun player, by the way. He's got panache to his game.
Definitely. And these conditions should just suit Rune a little bit better, and he ends up pulling. But he pulled a rabbit out of the hat there to some extent.
Yeah.
The real sort of like, I think we were talking about earlier about tennis being tennis, and and players are back one moment and then they're gone the next. Well, Tsitsipas was back 2 weeks ago. He went when Rune won that match in the round of 16. And then Rune was back. Then Medvedev was back. Now Rune's back and Medvedev is out again, if you like. Haven't had that win today.
He beat a couple real tall guys on his path. Tsitsipas and Medvedev. A lot of height on the court. And I think that he'll see some of that in Draper, who's about 6'4".
Greek Sport, he was the better player against him. I know it was a 3-setter, but he was just comfortable better player. Who's there more pressure on tomorrow, do you think? Rune, or who needs this more, this 1,000 title tomorrow?
So I would argue from like a progression development perspective, there's a little bit more on Rune. But I don't actually think there's much on either. Like, neither was expected to make it this far. Neither needed this kind of result here. Both, I think, are going to be thrilled to have made it to the final. Yeah. And, look, for Draper, it could be sort of taking a leap. For Rune, it could be getting back on the track that he was believed to be on. But, look, I don't think that if either of them loses tomorrow, they leave Indian Wells feeling anything other than fantastic with their performance. And I think both of them have already taken a step in the right direction, just making it this far. I would say that Draper, after beating Alcaraz, I think that if he loses, he walks away feeling a little worse. You beat the toughest player at the tournament, the 2-time defending champ, just to lose in the finals. That stings a little bit. So I think if I had to pick who's got more pressure, I think I'm going to stick Rune, but I think in terms of who would be more disappointed if they lost, I'm going to go Draper.
I probably take a different viewpoint in that. I think a similar viewpoint in that they can both look at their 10 days in the desert as being a huge step forward and blah, blah, blah. I think that probably maybe Rune needs it a bit more. He's won a 1,000 before. He's been in a 1,000 final before. In some ways, he's the more established player, even though Jack's a bit older. Rune has been making ATP finals, for example, I think at least on 2 occasions. So, he's certainly the more established player and has the more glittering CV. And yet he sort of probably needs to say, look, nobody really has said, and I don't think ever will say, that Jack Draper is going to be a member of a big 3. We might say he might win a slam one day. He may even win the 1,000 in Indian Wells tomorrow, the so-called 5th slam and all the rest of it. But no one's probably saying he's got the tools there. But people have said that about Rune in the past. And so in that respect, I don't necessarily think there's more pressure, because this is where I do agree with you. Both of them have exceeded expectations. In Rune's case, it's like, okay, he is still very much here. Jack Draper is now sort of here, and I think we're going to be thinking about him for quarterfinals and semifinals and maybe even finals and Grand Slams for probably some years to come. I
got a wacky question for you.
Go on.
So they're both young guys, 21 for Rune, 23 for Draper. They're both in a relatively small town that is just crawling with celebrities, influencers, beautiful people, and they both have a big old paycheck coming their way tomorrow, one way or another. Is there any world in which either one of them has a little fun tonight, or do you think they're both going to be the professional, early to bed, PT, rest up? Because look, it's 5:43 p.m. in California.
Yeah,
we got a lot of time to make bad choices between now and that match tomorrow.
I certainly think in the 80s and maybe even 90s, plenty of famous stories, but there's one, for example, this is not about going too hard on the partying, funny enough, but Boris Becker on the day of a Wimbledon final with, I think maybe racked with nerves or something. This is one he lost, by the way, not one of the ones he won, but he took some sleeping pills and basically he's sleeping until like 11 in the morning because whatever. And he actually said that he still was pretty drowsy as he entered the court. And I think he goes a set or 2 down, and that basically cost him the match in the end. So that's a slightly different one. Which of these two? Well, we already touched on which of these two is more likely. Well, we touched on Draper obviously enjoying the after party, let's say, of the Davis Cup victory that they had against France a few years back that put them in the Davis Cup finals or final 8. So I guess the thing is, Rune is a bit more of a wild boy, if you like, but I don't envisage him with a pint of lager at 3 in the morning, you know, in the same way that I might do with Jack.
Yeah, yeah. I think Ozon's right. They should both consider stopping in Las Vegas on their way to Miami.
Do a road trip.
Also,
I mean, by car from the desert where they are in California to Miami would probably take 2 days by car.
Oh, to drive from there to Miami would probably be if you're
3?
sprinting 3, but more like 4.
Wow.
I've done that drive a few times. Oh, so
Have
actually,
you?
yeah. So I lived in California for a bit, and so I drove from North Carolina out there, and yeah, it's a haul. It took I did it once in 4 days, once in 5 days, and once in 6. If you're gonna
Wow.
do it, the nicest way to do it is do it in 6. 'Cause you can kind of
Yeah.
if you're not in a hurry, you stop at more stuff. You have a good time. I do want to point out one of Jane's comments, which is Humbert ragging on the food in the U.S. is so French. Yes, it is. Also, look, the desert is not where the best food in the U.S. is typically. So I think it's a little unfair for him to rag on. Like, look, nothing grows there. Everything's imported. It's not that big of an area. It just happens to be this incredible kind of tennis oasis. Really, the Las Vegas of tennis facilities in a way.
Yeah, indeed. So I'm going Draper tomorrow. You're going.
I'm going to go Draper in straights still. I said it more confidently before. I meant it more confidently before, but I'm sticking with it. Draper in straights.
All right. On that bombshell, thank you, Jane, for being a member for the last 25 months. Thank you, Zach, for being alongside me for the last 2 hours. I think our analysis lasted probably longer than the first set, which was over and done with, and maybe even the second set. Both were done in 55 minutes. But yeah, big thanks to you, Zach.
Thanks for having me as always, John. And just want to stress to anybody who's listening, following along, if you get the chance, subscribe. It's an incredible community. There's so many wonderful contributors. And John, as always, thank you so much for putting this together for all of us. It is a great joy to have been here with you and to be part of this community.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.